for multinational
Thank you, Senator Ketter. Your time has expired. Senator Hume.
Madam Deputy President, the professional homogeneity of those opposite is certainly on display today. And I think we can all agree that the problem is with professional homogeneity is that it translates into uncritical groupthink worthy of dairy cows. I have never heard such economic rubbish in my life. Clearly those opposite have never run a business, they've never owned a business, they've never employed another person, they've never put their house on the line, they've never lost sleep at night wondering how they were going to pay the wages of others tomorrow. Either we have seen opposite an extraordinary display of ignorance, an extraordinary display of economic ignorance, or we're seeing complete disingenuity, I think is the correct word, disingenuity. And it's got to be one of the two, Madam Deputy President. For those opposite to come here and say these enormous companies pay no tax, therefore there is no reason to lower company tax rates is the height of ignorance. Let's just have a look at some of the companies that do pay corporate tax rates, that do pay corporate tax. The big banks, the big four banks, extraordinarily large corporate taxpayers. Commonwealth Bank, $3.3 billion, Westpac, $3 billion, NAB, $2.4 billion, ANZ, $2 billion. Now, those four companies alone combined to employ over 200,000 Australians. Telstra, $1.7 billion. They employ 36,000 Australians. Rio Tinto, $23 billion, another 26,000 Australians. Wesfarmers, $931 billion. They employ 200,000 Australians. Woolworths, $497 million. They employ another 200,000 Australians. In fact, the top 10 company taxpayers in this country paid a quarter of all company taxes collected in the last 12 months, and they are responsible for an enormous proportion of the employment in Australia. And so how could anybody with any economic nous, with anybody with the ability to connect the dots from A to B, possibly suggest that a company tax cut would not benefit Australian workers? It is a completely false, ignorant and, as I said, potentially disingenuous statement. And we say disingenuous for very good reason, because it was not that long ago that their own leader, the opposition leader Bill Shorten, said that reducing the corporate tax rate sees more capital flowing into our domestic economy, which will then flow on to workers in the form of higher wages, therefore improving standards of living. Now, this is your leader that said this. It wasn't our leader, this was your leader, and yet somehow you've managed to flip-flop. Somehow you've managed to change your minds. I can only think it's political expediency, potentially in the seat of Batman, that has driven you to do so. Similarly, the Shadow Treasurer, Chris Bowen, has also previously stated that, and I love this quote, "It's a Labor thing. It's a Labor thing to have the ambition of reducing company tax. It's a Labor thing to have the ambition of reducing company tax, because it promotes investment, it creates jobs and it drives growth." Now, this is your Shadow Treasurer, not ours saying this. It is your Shadow Treasurer. And yet now you have the audacity to walk into the chamber and to accuse us of the economics of the top end of town. How extraordinary, particularly when we've actually seen the effects of the company tax cuts delivered to 3.2 of small and medium businesses last year actually taking effect. The verdict is in. That company tax cut has already given small and medium-sized enterprises the flexibility to grow their business, to create more and better paid jobs. The results couldn't be clearer. As my colleague Senator Zazelle just said, 400,000 new jobs already created just in the last 12 months alone, and 300,000 of those full-time. We have had 15 months, Madam Deputy President, of consecutive jobs growth. That is the longest consecutive run of jobs growth on record. 178,000 jobs advertised on average just in this last month of January. Just in January alone, that's up 6.2% and the strongest monthly increase in 8 years. So these results are irrefutable. And despite an economy that's been disrupted by the transition from a mining boom, the laws of demand and supply are still the same. More jobs create better-paying jobs. Company tax cuts are an imperative.
Thank you.